Hello, darlings. It's Karen here. I may no longer be a part of the Grandness and Breakfast Parchment Company, but here I am anyway, because I'm dedicated. If you know any companies seeking high-level managers, please do tell them how dedicated I am. Idafer has recruited me as a consultant for a mission to Black Moon Bay, so naturally we got into a naval battle against some filthy pirates. I, for one, do not care for naval travel, so I was a little bit ill, but not to worry. With our old friend Moshi, we scuttled their hopes and dreams, and also their ship. Anyway, when we landed, we met up with the Goliaths of Goliath. What a tongue twister. And we started our assignment to find out why the forest is immolating the local lumberjacks. We hopped into a cart, ready to investigate, and who do you think might be waiting on the road? It's that scoundrel Master Speck. I don't know what he wants, but he's not getting it from me.
Everybody, and welcome to the terrible adventures of the Grandness and Breakfast Parchment Company. My name is Penny D. I will be your DM today, and we're going to do something a little bit different to our trivia that we do every week that you all love and hang on every word of. We're going to do a little bit of a D&D compliment circle. I'm going to introduce Nathan, my good friend Nate. And Nate, one thing I really, really like about the way that you play D&D is that you're always thinking outside the box. I am someone who really, really likes utility. When I make my D&D characters, I love, a character that's doesn't have a lot of damage options, but always has tons of ways to solve problems. And I think the way that you look at your spells and read your skills and stuff, you're always looking at ways that they can work outside of the written example, which I always appreciate because it's big creative problem solving.
It's the heat metal, isn't it?
I was going to say, is it the coffee to the face? Because that didn't work out.
It was creative.
But we still talk about it. We still joke about it, and it was an iconic moment.
It was.
Hi, I'm Nathan, and I play Finva, the halfling bard, the sometimes salesperson, mostly away team member. And my person is Poppy Idafer. I really like how Idafer, well, one, I love Idafer's name, but I also really enjoy, Poppy, how you built Idafer to be not, it's not a typical kind of edgelord rogue that started out with. He's got his own angle and spice that you're not afraid to kind of add in. And I think you actually are really intuitive and into Idafer as a character. And so the play style and the role play that comes through is really, really juicy.
Oh, thanks. Oh. This is nice. We should do this more often.
Yeah, we should.
My anxiety can't handle it. Yeah, please.
You're fine saying nice things about people, Steph. Your problem is you can't handle compliments and you can't handle selecting somebody.
Yes. That's right.
It's true.
Hi, I'm Poppy. I play Idafer the Tiefling Rogue, and I am going to compliment Liz because I absolutely adore Karen. I feel like not only has she jumped into this team mother role, which really works well with Ida, but she's just the sweetest character, and she has so much personality, and she always kind of lights up the room, which is interesting for a game where you don't see anything. I adore Karen.
I really love how Karen the manager was a gag at the very beginning of us putting this together. As I'm Karen, I want to talk to your manager. I am the manager, and I'm Karen, and it just develops so far.
And everything has been perfect. That she's not a character you hate, even though you would expect to hate a character called Karen, right?
She's multi-layered. She's complex.
She'll go to bat for you, but she's not going to be a dick about it.
Unless
it's Master Speck.
Yeah, no, fuck that guy. I'll get him.
That's the last thing I do.
And I'm Liz, and as you've heard, I play Karen, the Dwarven Barbarian, and independent contractor for the Jansen Bradford's Parchment Company recently.
Well, you can
And-
charge your own rates now, so that's probably a good thing.
Oh god, I should have
Ooh.
specified that in the contract.
Ooh. And today I am complimenting Steph, and she's going to scream through the whole thing, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I'll just mute her. It's fine.
Steph, Frankie is such a charming character. You have put so much humanity and depth into him. He has grown so much over this podcast, and I adore him. He is a very good friend of mine.
For
And
sure.
he's so cute.
He's so cute, and I think that the way that you have Frankie react to all the situations that we get him into is so realistic and so charming, and it's so he feels very real. And also the name Francis Delaney is one of the
He's so
cutest names.
sweet.
It's so cute. It's one of the cutest names I've ever heard in the world.
I'm gonna join in on this because I actually like complimenting Steph. I love how Frankie is the most believable, is how he's hyper competent and also completely incompetent, and it's so believable in the way that it's played.
So
It
real.
is. It's so believable. He's such a realistic character. He's just so filled with humanity.
I think a lot of people could feel like Frankie all of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Oh god,
My little heart.
my heart. Thank you so much. So,
Hello, Frankie.
my name is Stephanie, and I play Frankie the human with humanity. I'm Frankie the human artificer, and I want to compliment Penny.
Gasp.
Gasping like she didn't know.
I just want to compliment her on her DM style. You can tell that she puts in a lot of time and energy
Oh yes.
and
Oh my
love
God, yeah.
into this, and that comes through the story.
Oh yeah.
The attention to detail, the characters she creates, and even just looking after us,
Thanks, Dave.
Oh yeah.
reaching out to us, making sure we're okay to record, happy if
Yeah.
we need to cancel last minute. She puts up with our shenanigans, and I think she's probably one of the best DMs I've ever played with. And
Oh, 100% yes.
yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
so
yeah.
much, Steph. That's very nice of you. I just love tricking you, and everything else is just to enable me in order to trick you.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, this has been really nice. I'm really glad that we did this, and we should probably do something like this more often, because we know we could do this 4 more times and select a different person to compliment each time.
We could do that.
We'll probably still have fresh compliments each time.
And you know what? This is a D&D podcast where we love each other and we support each other, and I'm going to trick you. How would you like to play some Dungeons and Dragons today?
Yes.
Let's go.
Yay! Let's go.
Party, you are in a cart. You are traveling through the remains of a razed, chopped down forest, as far as the eye can see. And you're on your way to solve a problem for the Jansen Bradford's Parchment Company, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you be able to remind the audience, Idafer, since you're the leader of the team now, what that problem is?
Well, it seems that we're not able to do any production back at the company because of these Goliaths, and we're here to figure out why.
I think the Goliaths might be victims in this situation, and
Yeah.
blaming them is probably a little bit of a
That's right.
manager move, so well done on being in charge.
It's everyone else's fault, not mine.
I'm proud of you, darling. You're learning fast.
Oh my god.
Waiting for you, seemingly knowing that you were about to appear, there was a figure hovering a few feet off the ground, just waiting for the cart. Who was it?
Who was it, Karen?
It was that bloody man. It was that horrible man. It was that man who keeps following you, Master Speck.
It was Master Speck. He asked you if he could ride in the carriage, and instead of punching his beautiful face, we actually said, yes, that's fine.
I didn't say it was fine.
And we said, yes, that's completely fine. Please welcome, have as many snacks as you want.
Please
Not
come in
welcome.
and sit
Not
right next to
welcome, no
Karen.
Not welcome, no snacks.
So, I guess my first question is, we're inside the cart. Where's everyone sitting, and how are we all, dealing with this, hey, this guy's in here with us and it changes our behavior. Just paint me a
Oh,
little
no.
picture of the inside of the cart.
Because I know we did paint the picture last time, but I've forgotten where I'm sitting.
Oh, you can just choose a new place. It's fine.
Okay.
At some point between episodes, we all shuffled seats and it's okay.
Fabulous. Well, in that case, I'm sitting by the door because I would have ushered everyone in and then I would have gotten last.
All right. So Karen is probably trapped on the far side of the carriage, away from the door, and she's regretting sitting there. She's very quiet, and her hands are balled up into fists on her knees.
Frankie would be just like squeezed in between, like probably Karen and whoever got in after. Like, and he's like a tall, lanky boy, so he's just like trying to make himself as small as possible. His knees are, you know, coming up quite high. He just looks uncomfortable, but he's you know, trying to lighten the mood by sharing some facts about carts and when they were first invented and what people did before carts.
What's more about
You're just filling the silence.
Yeah, he can't handle it.
Flynn, that leaves just you, and you. I guess that given the seats that we have available, you are sitting across from Karen by the window further away from the door, and you're facing, like, you're traveling backwards. You're sitting in the seat that like faces towards the back.
Yes.
That's the most awkward spot to sit in. Have you ever sat in a bus like that?
Yeah.
So Flynn kind of got his hands clasped in front of him, and he's making too much eye contact with Frankie while he tries not to make eye contact with Master Speck or like anyone else for too long. But he's just forgotten to. He's too focused on being like, this is so.
That's a
uncomfortable.
vibe.
Yeah.
It's such a vibe, and Frankie is also making eye contact. And he's like, "Oh," and trying to also look away and not touch anyone,
He's just
but he's touching everybody.
staring directly into Flynn's soul while going, so rubberized wheels were only really invented about 45 years ago. But
Only got into the mainstream.
And so that leaves Master Speck, who's also in the cart with us. He is sitting across from Idafer, so he's sitting in the backwards-facing seat next to the door, because he was the last person to enter. And he's currently just, like, his chin is on his hand, and he's just looking out the window, just wistfully, just like watching the forest go past. Can everyone just roll me just a quick, either insight or perception check, please?
Ooh. I'm good at perception.
I will go with insight, and that is a 15 for Karen.
Nice, okay.
Okay, Idafer rolled 28 for perception.
28, hell yeah, well done.
Frankie rolled a not natural 20 for perception.
Flynn got 16 for perception.
Idafer, you're the closest, and you rolled really well. Master Speck appears to be not just wistfully looking out the window. You notice his eyes darting around a little bit. He's like looking for something. You're not sure what. And Karen, you were the only one who rolled insight, right?
Yes.
Karen, you realize that every time you've seen Master Speck before, he's had people with him.
Mm-hmm.
You've never seen him alone. And so, in particular, there's like people in black robes that tend to follow him, and there's nobody around. Like there were no extras with him when he was waiting for you.
Would you like to engage with that, Karen?
Karen is going to say, so, no cronies today? Speck?
Speck turns around to look at you, and he's got a little like shit-eating smirk on. He looks like he
course he does.
looks smug, and he turns around to you and he says, "Oh no, I'm traveling by myself today." And then he pauses for a minute, and he kind of like he puts on a little bit of sass into his body language, and he says, "How's the job?"
Oh,
Mm.
zing!
Nothing that you have to worry about.
Good to know. Good to know.
So, what are you doing out here in the middle of nowhere, Speck?
I think it's pretty obvious that I was waiting for you.
Yeah, I guess so, but I do like to ask because it does seem strange that you would just know we're here.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Where you're going to is going to be difficult. We're going to the edge of the Manafei Forest. Well, we're traveling in the same cart, Karen. We're going to the same place.
Oh.
It would be very difficult for me to go somewhere where you're not going.
I would love it if you went somewhere that I was not.
He smiles at you and he continues talking to you, Idafer, and he says, you've got quite a difficult job ahead of you, and I have some familiarity with our destination, and so I'll lend a hand if required.
Oh, okay. Well, knowing you, what is this going to cost?
He's like, more than you could ever know. No, he just he just looks at you and he's like, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm quite famous as a wandering hero. I help people out. This is just what I do.
Okay, but if I get a bill at the end of this, I'm going to be furious.
That's fair. I wouldn't presume to lock you into a contract without asking your permission first.
Thank you.
How did you know to be here?
He's a magic boy.
He chuckles at Idafer and he turns to you and he says, Idafer's right, I am a magic boy. I have my methods. And what can I say? You people interest me.
No, yeah, I can understand that. We've been through some pretty wild stuff, and I can only imagine that you've watched every second of it. So, is there anything we need to know as we go into this whole situation with the Goliaths?
Roll me a persuasion check, Idafer.
Okay, that is... oh no, my persuasion's not very good. Okay. Oh, that's an 18.
You have been talking to him with... Like, Karen's obviously being really antagonistic. Flynn's question felt really suspicious, but you're kind of just talking to him like an equal almost. And we all know that, like, he's got some weird, like, thing for you in the first place. So he says to you, I need to look at it for myself, but what I understand is there's going to be some magic involved. And so, you know, you and I have some expertise there.
Oh, I do?
You can cast spells. I know you can.
Oh, fair. No, yep. Cool. Yep.
So, to be fair, I've not been to this place in a long time, not since I was a child. So, I would like to just wait until we get there and have a look and see what we can see, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I guess just if you become aware of something that would be helpful to the group, it would be awesome if you could tell us.
That feels fair.
Yeah.
You were here as a child?
I was.
I know, it's weird to believe, like, Speck was ever a child, right?
I was actually a very adorable young man.
I can imagine.
I met one of my biggest heroes in the Manafei Forest.
Who was it?
He does not answer you.
Oh.
He suggests, if it's all right, let's just get there when we get there.
Fair enough. That's okay.
He seems kind of upset when you asked who it was.
Aww. I feel bad.
Not like pissed at you, but like he didn't want to talk about it because it was upsetting to him.
Mm.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Get down to nerve.
I'm gonna like immediately change the subject and be like, so what have you been up to lately? Any heroism you've been doing? Exciting things?
He considers his answer for a little bit, and he says, yes, nothing but. I have been seeking out magical creatures and clearing them away from populated areas. There were some manticore that were bothering Wampinville.
Oh, God.
And so it's not far from here, it's just on the other side of the crater, but I spent a little time with some friends dealing with them.
Yeah, no, they are not fun creatures. From what I've read, never met one, but...
You should have seen Friskin was extremely helpful in that endeavor.
I bet he would have. How's he doing?
He is as hyperactive and as bloodthirsty as he has ever been.
Oh, I do love Friskin. Such a good boy.
So the party travels by cart through the dead forest. You know, you're having these conversations, and for the most part, Master Speck is being amicable. If you ask him questions that are like accusatory or like Karen, I'm sure that your tone with him, even in moments where you're like, so how are you, is a little bit aggressive. So, and in those moments, he gives...
Engaged in any more light blackmail recently?
Yeah, stuff like that. He mostly will either deflect the question or not answer it. Let's say if there was a moment where you just straight up said to him, hey, you did this, he would pretend he didn't know what you were talking about, that kind of thing. He's trying to keep everything pleasant. But you travel through the dead forest for another hour, until on the horizon begin to see the tops of trees. Big, old, like very, very tall trees. And they're like in a clean, straight line ahead of you. You travel a little further till you get to the point where your driver won't take you any further. It's probably 50 feet from the tree line now. This is as far as we go. If you could have a look around and see what you can figure out, we would be very grateful.
Who says that? Sorry, the person driving the car?
The driver, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
His name is Fort Worth. He's the Goliath that first met you. He's just brought you to the problem place, essentially.
All right, sweet. Idafer will open the carriage door and usher everyone out, gently, holding their hand as they come down the steps.
Oh,
Thank
very
you,
nice.
thank you.
Good leadership.
that.
Yeah.
My short legs appreciate that.
So gentlemanly.
As you hold Frankie's hand and help him down out of the carriage, you two share a look with each other. But don't.
Anger, pure anger.
Just hatred, not kidding.
Oh, God.
Oh, stop it. Two drippy men.
Drippy?
Drippy.
What are we dripping, mate?
Oh, stop.
Your emotions all
Yeah.
over the place.
This is getting cut immediately. As soon as the word drippy hopped in, I'm just
Really not
removing
like
all of
drippy.
that.
Cutting.
Can I roll, what would be a good one for this one? I guess investigation?
Please go ahead and roll me an investigation check. If anyone is helping you, you can have advantage, or everyone who wants to is welcome to roll their own investigation check.
Would anyone like to help?
I'll roll my own.
I'll help so you've got advantage.
Thank you.
Karen is watching Master Speck, not looking around.
Okay, that's fine.
With the advantage, Idafer rolled a nat 20.
Oh, very, very good.
Frankie rolled a 28.
Oh, amazing.
Whoa!
Idafer, what's your total with the net 20? Like, what's your plus to investigation?
26.
Okay, so we got a 26 and a 28, and we've got a I'm watching Master Speck like a hawk. Okay, so Karen, we'll do you first, and there's no need to roll a check. Master Speck hovers near the carriage. He's just waiting for Idafer and for Flynn and Frankie to like finish looking around. He's basically waiting to be called on before he will make any moves. Are you waiting next to him, or are you like far away and just watching him, like out of his eye line?
Yeah, Karen is behind him, like boring holes into his back.
Okay. Roll me a quick perception check.
Okay. Oh, 8.
Yeah, you're busy watching Master Speck. You don't see anything else.
Yeah.
Idafer,
Yes.
you walk up to the edge of the tree line, being cautious, and what you find on the way there is there are scorch marks on the ground, like on the soil, as well as some charred tools that have been discarded, like, you know, axes and picks and, you know, the things that lumberjacks would use on a day-to-day basis. There's just stuff that's been discarded. And you walk a little closer to the tree line, and you can see that sort of past this line where the trees start, there are a few completely charred, burned bodies.
Oh my god.
Large, Goliath-sized, charred bodies that are burnt beyond recognition.
That's so awkward because I was about to make this a comedy moment. But I can't now.
No. Well, you can.
You can. It's just
Try.
weird.
What you gather from this investigation, Idafer, is that there's probably some kind of magical barrier. There's like a line that if you cross it, something will trigger. It's something that appears to be fire related.
Oh. Okay, so I will obviously bring this to everyone's attention because I'm assuming they can't just see it.
Okay, and Frankie, you rolled a great investigation check. You rolled 28, right?
Yep.
You recognize the signs of hellfire. So you spent time in the other timeline, and you know the difference between fire and hellfire, and you recognize these like charred. You notice that like the metal part of the axe also has like char marks on it, and you notice the way that the bodies have been burnt, and the way that like nothing around them has been affected. Because you would think like, hey, if people caught on fire and then ran into the trees should have caught on fire too. No, you recognize the signs of hellfire damage.
Oh.
No, guys, this is hellfire.
Literally hellfire?
Remarkably worse.
Yeah, you can smell it. It smells like sulfur.
So what? There's a devil and there's a demon. There's a devil in these forests, and they're scorching Goliaths to death.
Well, I guess, yeah, it's kind of what we've discovered from this. But we shouldn't just jump to conclusions.
Can you tell how long ago they were burnt, Idafer? Or Frankie?
Is that something one of us would know?
You could just ask Fort Worth. He's here with you.
Okay. Is he okay? Fort Worth, are you okay? I'm so sorry you had to see this.
He's about 50 feet back on the cart, and he won't come closer. He does not seem like he probably doesn't have eyes on this, but he knows what's here.
Ah, fair enough. Fort Worth, did you know about this?
Yes. We were doing our jobs, and we hit a certain line in the forest, like these trees, and he gestures to like, you know, everything on your side of the line. No problems. And then as soon as we stepped over this line into that part of the forest, people just started immolating. Tools began burning in our hands, and people who tried to push through turned back and screamed that we should leave before they burnt to death.
And how long ago was this?
Days ago. We sent word to the Janice and Rufus Parchment Company about a week ago, and since
Okay.
then we have ceased production. And in that time, the word came back that said they were going to send someone, and then you arrived.
That's us.
Flynn kind of looks at me and said, "Can I ask, have you harvested this area for trees before? Is this like a second rotation of trees that have grown, or have you never gathered trees from this area before?"
We've never got this far into the forest before.
Ah, okay. And you're saying that there were no people as such, people were just, well, immolating.
That's correct. We didn't see anyone.
Is there some tools by our feet still? Like,
Yeah, there's like some axes and picks and saws and stuff that are on this side, as though like people dropped them as they were running. Some of them are charred, some of them are not.
Flynn pick up an uncharred one and move forward a little bit and throw it like ahead of him to try and see if there's like a something that might trigger.
Would you like me to throw that?
Oh yeah, so Flynn kind of like
Flynn,
reaches, picks up and like,
Okay.
what if we just? And then Karen, and then if you offer,
Yeah.
we're like, oh yes, that makes heaps of sense. Thank you, Karen. It's heavy.
Karen, what do you throw?
One of the uncharred axes, and I'm just going to try and frisbee it into the woods, past
Yeah.
the charred bodies if possible.
Yeah, so you pick it up and you probably walk until you're 10 feet away from like where you assume the line is, and you give it a swing and you throw it. As it passes over some invisible threshold, it catches on fire with these dark red flames that you recognize. You've seen hellfire before in the other timeline. This is the same as that. It catches on fire, it keeps swinging through until it embeds itself in a nearby tree, and it continues burning until all of the wood part of it crumbles into ash, and even then the metal part of it keeps burning until it starts to melt.
Can I do like an Arcana check to see,
Mm.
like a spell or what's like who did what?
Okay, sure. Yeah, roll me an Arcana check. And Karen, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, and it doesn't seem to affect the tree, the heat.
Mm.
No, not at all. And actually, roll me an investigation check, Karen.
Okay.
I rolled a 21 on Arcana.
Very nice. I'll come back to that.
I rolled a 14 on investigation.
Okay, yeah, no, the tree does not seem to be affected, but I'm not gonna give you any more information than that.
Okay.
21 on Arcana. Frankie, this feels like to you, this probably resembles closest to what you consider to be a glyph, but the line is like miles wide. Like if this was a glyph, it would be like a monumental effort to create a glyph that is this large.
Wow. So somebody very powerful would have had to do this.
It's like it's protecting the trees.
And I'm not saying that it is a glyph. What I'm saying is like the way that the threshold works, that it, over a certain line, it most closely resembles how a glyph works.
Yes.
Artifer is kind of like, like because of his infernal lineage,
Oh, yeah.
he puts his arm over, like just kind of tentatively puts his arm over the kind of threshold to see what happens.
Okay, can you roll 3d6 for me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's worth trying. So 3.
3d6, yeah.
That is the one time I roll nicely. That's 15.
You take 15 hellfire damage, which is not resisted by your fire resistance.
Oh.
And what languages do you speak?
I speak Infernal, Common, and Druidic.
Okay, you hear words that you don't understand, like in your
Dang
head.
it. Okay.
Oh.
Sorry, Flynn, you were about to say something. What did you have?
He was about to suggest to Karen to throw through something that's not like an axe, like a stick or something, to see if it triggers it. But then seeing Ido, I think that he's kind of figured out that we know it's a protective spell. But he was trying to see if we had no weapons and no ill intent, if we could walk through it.
Idafer, roll me a history check.
Okay.
I just want to see if you can identify the language that you couldn't understand.
Okay. 16.
You think, just from like one particular word that you've heard like Karen say before, that it might be Elvish.
Oh.
Oh, okay. I turn to Karen and I'm like,
I can
Karen,
speak Elvish.
You speak Elvish, don't you? A bit.
I mean, I took a night class a few years ago.
You hear a chuckle behind you from the hovering elf.
Yeah, but we don't want to like rely on him, and I want to make Karen feel like she's important because she is important.
Yeah.
I can I
Oh,
emulate,
this is like a good thing we hired you kind of moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel yeah.
can I emulate the sound that I heard and see if she can recognize it?
Yeah, roll me. You got 16 for your history, right? I think that's probably enough. So Karen, what you gather from Ida for repeating what he heard in his head, you hear the words "leave, forest, and return."
Something about leave, not leave as in leave on trees, like leave as in
Oh,
go
ha ha
away.
ha.
Ha ha ha. And then forest, which is why I qualified that previous word, and then return. So if I had to make a guess, it would probably be something like leave this forest and never return. But why don't we ask the elf? He might as well make himself useful.
Well, if you're suggesting it.
Go on, Master Speck, put your arm in. See what you hear.
Frankie just wanted to interject and be like, well, actually, it was the past participle of return, pretty much just kind of correct what you said, because Frankie also speaks Elvish quite fluently.
Oh wow!
But as like a throwaway comment, yeah, like, oh, actually, you have to emphasize the re and return. But
it's a very tonal language.
Yes. Frankie says,
Frankie.
Master Speck kind of like floats forward a little bit and says, yes, I believe Mr. Reynolds is correct. But Karen, your translation is more or less correct. That sounds right. Leave the forest and do not return. Although it probably says leave our forest and do not return if I was to guess. He turns to Idafer and he says, do I have your permission to lend a hand?
Oh, please do, yes.
Yeah, so Master Speck floats forward as he does with his little levitating, with his like little delicate
little feetsies.
Stops about 5 feet from the line, and you notice that like he knows where the line is. He's not cautiously approaching it. He knows exactly where to stop. And he calls out in Elvish, which Karen, you understand most of, and Frankie, you understand completely. He calls out in Elvish into the forest, and he asks, myself and my companions would like to enter. I call parley.
Oh.
And after a moment, you hear some rustling, and from the other side of the line, from behind the trees, someone appears. They are pale-skinned, pointed ears, long, gorgeous hair. They are ethereally beautiful and effortlessly graceful. An elf, full-blooded elf, emerges from the trees and appears to recognize Master Speck. Frankie, you are able to follow the following conversation, and Karen, you're able to pick up bits and pieces here and there.
And just whispers, majestic.
Yeah, very majestic. The elf says to Master Speck, my lord, my understanding was that you would never be returning. And Master Speck responds and says, things out here, they often change. You would not understand.
Yeah, you fool.
Kindly allow myself and my friends passage into Manafei. And the elf responds, you may enter. Master Speck does not move at all, and he says, and my friends? And the elf nods, and Master Speck still does not move, and he says, say it. And the elf in the forest says, you and your friends may enter Manafei unharmed, unless the great protector, Lord King Yashul, decides otherwise. And Master Speck responds, my party and I thank you for your kindness and your generosity. Karen and Frankie roll insight.
That is a 20, not natural.
Very nice.
and I got a 3.
Karen, even though you're only understanding like broken bits of this, Master Speck's behavior, he went to a lot of effort to get the guard to say those specific words. You're not sure why, but he was very like insistent on getting exactly what he wanted spoken.
It's like we're vampires or something.
Master Speck turns around and he gestures into the forest and he says, well, I believe we may enter. And he himself floats past the Hellfire threshold and it does not immolate. There is no Hellfire effect. He floats over towards the elf in the forest, who, by the way, is wearing like molded, beautiful gold armor. And he turns and he gestures everybody else to enter.
And I do.
Yeah, Idafer, you're able to cross the threshold with no Hellfire, no damage, no nothing.
So we're going in?
Yeah, come on.
We're going in.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're all able to enter the forest without further damage. And as you pass the bodies, they do also smell like sulfur, and you feel a little bit of fear as to like who could do that so effortlessly to people as powerful as Goliaths.
Karen says, wait. I want to return the bodies to the Goliaths. May we have a minute?
Master Speck translates what you just said to Elvish, and the elf's like, I speak common, bro. And not in those words. He's very like, it's fine, I understood. And the elf and Master Speck wait for you to do that.
Yeah. Karen just, aspects of the bear or whatever, just... You wouldn't think that she could lift a Goliath body, even though she is, kind of sturdy, but she absolutely can. And she's just going to pull the bodies back over the threshold and kind of wave at the Goliaths.
There are 3 bodies, and Fort Worth approaches you and thanks you for that. He's like, oh, thank you very much. These people will be buried and cared for. Are you going to be okay in there?
I guess we'll see.
I will return to Goliath.
Okay.
And when you are finished, we will discuss what happened.
Yes, we'll see how it all shakes out. Good luck. And then she turns and retreats back into the forest.
Karen, you turn around and you notice that like half a dozen other elves with similar gold armor and spears and bows have appeared out of nowhere. Literally, the party is like watching you do this, and you turn back to face them, and then you see like way more elves than you were expecting to see, who just approach with like no noise.
She goes, oh, okay. Dwarves are usually a little bit more loud about approaching. Okay, well, a guard, I suppose? Sure, absolutely.
The elf addresses you and says, we will escort you to Manafei village. Please follow us. His common is a little rusty, a little like unpracticed, and some of the words are like, imagine he's like talking like a person from the 80s would, where like the words are all the same, but like it's a little like you could tell that hasn't spoken it for a while. And so together with the guards like stretched out between you but not interfering with you, they're not intimidating you, they're just there to escort you. You travel into the forest, and it is gorgeous, untouched. Like, it's so grown. You guys have traveled through a rainforest before at Ixingnia, and this is much different. It's like it's much more like the one that you traveled through before was like a rainforest. Has anyone here been to the redwoods in Anagnorisis?
Yeah.
This is much more like that. These
Nice.
big, like intimidating trees that just travel straight up, like tall
Beautiful.
and powerful. And the leafage and foliage on the ground is not anywhere near as thick. Like last time you had to sort of cut your way through. This is a lot more like pine nettles, and there's like small signs of animals and stuff that live here, but it's not, you're not like on foot level. There's not a lot of stuff that you have to carve through to get there. Idafer, you find yourself with the way that you're walking towards the front, and Speck is right behind you, and he says to you, we're traveling to my home. It's going to be interesting.
Oof. All right. Well, let's go.
Idafer, roll me history.
15.
You had no idea that there was an elf settlement in Yemesa. You have like a map of the region, and you like know all the like types of people that live here. You all do. You know that like for the most part, it's like dwarves and Goliaths and humans and half elves. No one knows that there is an elven settlement in this forest. This is new.
I see.
Master Speck,
Yes, Karen.
you were called, if I heard correctly, you were called a lord.
That's right.
Yeah, should we start calling you something else from now on?
No, Master Speck is fine.
Okay.
It's a title that was bestowed on me some time ago by an old friend. I like it. It has its uses.
And the way that you asked permission to enter, is there anything else that we should be aware of?
When speaking to the people.
That's a fair question. Speak Elven if you can, although they will make accommodations. Where we are going is you are going to negotiate with the Elven King on behalf of the Goliaths. That is where we are headed, and I probably won't be a lot of help in that particular endeavor because the King and I do not see eye to eye.
Awkward. But we can work around that.
Of course, you can do the negotiations. I will not speak on your behalf.
Well, part of a good negotiation is knowing the other people. So is there anything... We don't know Elven culture or the rules of an Elven city. Is there anything that we need to know to help us not make an accidental blunder or promise something we're not promising? Or
Certainly. First of all, my suggestion would be to be polite. Typically, we are very kind to one another. We share. And so just general politeness as you understand it should be sufficient. Please do not insult the king. That will not go well. And for the most part, just be yourselves. People do not expect you to understand the cultures of a hidden community. That would be unreasonable.
No, that's good. All right.
Roll me insight, Idafer. You're probably the only one who's going to pick this up.
Okay. 16.
Because you are walking in front of Master Speck and everybody else is traveling behind him, you happened to pick up something that maybe he didn't intend, which was when he's talking about the king, he's sneering a little bit, like his nose is kind of bunching up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you gather that he does not have a lot of respect or reverence for this King Yashul.
Gotcha.
I like this King Yashul already.
Ha 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 ha.
You travel for a little while, and let's say you continue this conversation, you gather a little bit more, and what you gather is that, the elves are probably just like us. They've obviously sequestered themselves for some reason, but they seem to be people who, while extremely long-lived, they are probably people who enjoy fun and pleasure and art just as much as everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
But there's obviously some reason that they don't leave that Master Speck is carefully avoiding telling you. He's obviously left himself, but you've only met one other full-blooded elf, and aside from them, you've never seen another one. You see a few half-elves from time to time, but also they're not particularly common. And it's after a little while that you hear a little bit of crashing coming from ahead of you, and you realize that there's something traveling in your direction extremely fast. You draw your weapons, you draw your amulet weapons, you ready yourselves for combat. Then you run forwards and you see that this enormous creature that appears to be like half eagle and half lion is simply being tended to by the elf guards. They did not draw their weapons. They did not react violently. They stopped it using, body language and animal handling, and they fed it and it went on its way. And you gather from this encounter that the elves live non-violently. Like, in a moment where you probably would have, you've had a T-Rex jump out at you from the forest before and you responded by defending yourselves. The elves don't need to do that here.
Yeah.
Roll perception checks, everybody.
Idafer got a 28.
Damn.
Frankie got an 11.
Flynn got a 19.
Karen got a 15.
Flynn, as the animal slinks away, just from the angle that you get from just being a little short guy, you could have sworn that, like, for a moment, 10 trees back and just this little eye line that you have, that you could have sworn that you saw something black moving through the trees, but as quickly as you saw it, it's gone.
Was I able to sense a kind of size to it?
Yeah, you assume it's like, human-sized. You didn't get a lot of detail to it, and it because the forest is like very covered and there's not a lot of sunlight specifically here, you couldn't get any texture to it, but you swore you saw something like black on black moving through the trees, but you couldn't gather what it was.
Okay.
And Idafer, with a 28, you noticed the feeling of, and it was just like a little bit of shift of weight, you felt like a hand in one of your pockets.
Oh.
I immediately like I'm patting down my body, like, is something gone?
You go through your pockets and you look through your bags, and your rations are there and your gold is there, any valuables that you have are there, and there's like something nagging at the back of your mind that you're like, what's missing? Like, no one's even anywhere close to me. What, like, first of all, who was that? Because no one's near me, because you like swung around immediately and there was no one there. But also you're like, what is, and you wonder if, like, hey, maybe it's just a forest. Like this place is weird. Maybe it was just like a raccoon or something. Like, it's very difficult to get any more information than that.
Yeah. Okay. That was awkward. I turned to everyone and I'm like, did any of you guys kind of feel, I don't know, something in your pockets just then?
No. Are
not
are
at
you
all.
okay? Do you have
Yeah, I have everything. I was just
your necklace?
Yeah, I seem to have everything.
Master Speck is checking the pockets of his robe, and he looks and he says, "No, I don't have anything missing. What was it? What was taken?"
Nothing was taken. It's fine. I felt something and I wanted to confirm that everyone else is okay.
What did it feel like? There's something strange going on here.
Well, yeah. We're in a forest that has been protected. It's pretty strange, but that's okay. That's okay. Everything's okay. Let us continue and we'll just see how this goes.
Sure.
Frankie panics for a minute because he's like, "Oh no, my sandwich is gone!" And he's like, "Oh wait, sorry, it's just my other hand."
What's everyone's passive perception scores?
15.
15 for me also.
20 for Flynn.
16 for me.
My passive investigation is 22. If you
I
wanted
d-
to know, by the
didn't ask
way.
that. No, I did want to know that. Thank you for asking. Thank you for letting me know. That's very
You're
high.
welcome.
It's very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kia ora, Penny here. I hope you're enjoying our 10th arc so far. In fact, in this episode, there's a treasure hunt for listeners. If you happen to spot the hidden lobster, you have won a prize. Thank you very much to our patrons for supporting the show. James Courtwright, Samsara, Claire McDonald, Jules Bergesser, Violet, Alex Moore, Lyndon Hood, Jesse Wesson, Disturbed One NZ, sometimes Marlock, occasionally Dingle Floof, but always the human servant of the real life when the forgotten, Andrew Effins, Luna Chris, Steffi James is awesome, and Danielle, the tea lady, lady of the tea. Your support is really valuable in making this an actual sustainable project for us, and I can't thank you enough for still being here with us. In each of your homes, I've hidden a golden ticket to the Glasgow Chocolate Experience. Please say hi to the Oompa Loompa for me. Music credits, thanks to Track Tribe for Body of Water, It Was a Time, Limousines, and Wish You'd Never Left, Quinzas Moriera for Bonza Salsa and Nature Nurture, John Patitucci for July, Esther Abrami for Number 2 Remembering Her, and French Views for Press Views. So, it's still March, and I'm still excited to tell you that one of my other passion projects, the Yes and Charity Stream, is currently onboarding cast and crew. The Yes and Charity Stream is a 24-hour Dungeons & Dragons live stream run by a creative team of volunteers, including myself, who have banded together to raise money for charity for the last 3 years. We're going to announce the official date and the partner charity very soon, so stay tuned on the Yes and Charity Stream social media. We still need not just talented DMs to write and run the adventure, but also a solid backstage team. People who want to get involved to help us run the behind the scenes. We'll provide all the training you'll need, so if you're keen to join a fun community project that raises big money for amazing causes, you should send us an email. Every year, we have great fun and an even greater experience being involved in an RPG nationwide project dedicated to helping others. To put your name forward to join the team this year, all you need to do is email yesandcharitystream@gmail.com and tell us all about why you want to be involved and what skill set you bring with you. Keep an ear out for more updates on how else you can support the Yes and Charity Stream, even if it's by watching and donating on the day. Thank you so much for listening. I hope to see you there. Alright, that's enough from Penny. It's time to get back to the show. You carry on in this direction with these elves, but you, for the rest of the way there, you can't help but feel like you're being watched. And you travel in a straight line through the trees for a while. You know, once in a while you have to go around a tree, but you know, you're traveling in the same direction, which is sort of like northeast. And you eventually get to a point where you see a little bit of like light ahead of you, and you arrive in this clearing in the forest, this beautiful spot where there's no trees. And you find yourselves in Manafei Village, and when it's revealed, it is this gorgeous, idyllic place. Using both the trees and the mushrooms on the ground, and like these enormous shelf mushrooms halfway up the trees, there is this gorgeous community of elves who are, you know, they are acting very youthful. There's like these gorgeous little, what look like magical boardwalks that connect all the trees to each other. And a lot of the time, the branches of the trees have become little traveling routes in between each other. There's these big communal hammocks that a lot of elves are lying down on. They seem to live in this really nice, gorgeous community where, enormous leaves catch the water and they are painting and laughing and playing and chasing each other. And they a few of them see you and they stop to stare, and they don't seem angry. They're just curious, and some of them are giggling. And Flynn, you see some of them like looking at you and just through their like hand gestures and stuff, like laughing at how small you are. Some of them are like looking at Karen's beard, like just from all the way up in the treetops. Down on the ground where you are, there's not a lot of them close by other than the guards. And Frankie, you feel the familiar tingle of a font. And as you walk, it's already stronger than any font you've felt, even though you're not standing in it. And as you walk, it gets stronger.
Wow.
What's up?
Frankie's literally tingling. There's a font. Must be a font nearby. It's one of the strongest I've ever felt. God.
Wow.
Really? Because I can't feel anything.
Roll me Arcana, Idaho.
That is 15.
It takes a second. It takes Frankie registering it to you, but you start to feel it as well. This like magical tingle, not quite the same as like standing inside of one, but there's definitely like a font close by, and it's a strong one.
Oh, no, yeah, I can feel it now. What about you guys?
Can Flynn move right up to stand like right between you guys' feet, like too personally close?
Yeah, it does feel similar to what we felt back in the hives, and wow, no wonder they're trying to defend this place.
Yeah, it makes sense that they would build their home here.
So as you continue like into the village, you see that the elves, they live communally. They cook and they eat together. They have their own little homes in the trees, but they spend their time not working, but in play and creating art and music together. And surprisingly, Speck seems very bitter to be here, and he comments to you that these elves can never leave, and that's why you never see them outside of the forest.
Wow.
Why can't they leave?
Can or don't want to?
You'll see.
Okay.
As we travel further into the village, we approach the Lord's Tree, which is an ancient, like impossibly old tree with a castle sort of built into it. The castle is both made from stone, but like a lot of it is like inside the tree. The elf guard comments that tells you that it stood since before most of them were ever born. And as we travel towards the Lord's Tree, we pass into a courtyard that is clearly designated as like part of the castle. And Frankie, you're starting to feel a little dizzy as you approach this beautiful marble and like mushroom and like kind of made, it's got like flowers and trees sort of like all grown into it. This gorgeous fountain. It stands openly in the center of the courtyard, and you watch as elves are approaching to drink from it. Frankie, this is the strongest font that you have ever felt coming from beneath this fountain.
Wow.
You feel a little tipsy from how intense it is.
Yeah, Frankie's like staggering a little bit and just gotta slow down. Like he takes a knee, like he's like,
Oh, Frankie.
Anafa immediately, he's like, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay, Frankie?"
this is just so strong. Like I feel almost drunk.
God, you're not wrong. This is very intense.
And Master Speck watches, and he says, my people need to live near this fountain to drink from it and maintain their lifespan. Without magic, they will age and die faster than anybody else. Faster than dwarves, faster than gnomes.
Oh, wow. Faster than humans?
Yes. They cannot survive without magic pumping through their veins.
Flynn looks thoughtfully up and goes, is it a race thing, or is it the specific elf thing?
Elves are creatures of the Fae, Mr. Onagon. They are from a place called the Fae Wild, and they are children of that place, which is now inaccessible. With no magic flowing through the weave, this is the only way they're able to maintain their lifespan.
And yourself?
He reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a familiar electric blue coin, and he says, there are other sources of magic that one can use to maintain themselves. But before I left, a lot of elves considered it untested and unnatural.
That's tedious.
Master Speck approaches the fountain like reverentially, like he seems in awe of it. as he approaches it to drink, and he pulls a little cup out of his pocket, and it, as you have expected from him now, he holds out his palm and the cup levitates over to the water and dips in for him to drink. And as it touches the surface of the water, you can see the water moves around like an invisible hand that is holding this cup. It's like a blink and you'll miss it moment because the water is not still. And he stands quietly, nursing the cup, seemingly lost in thought, before he decides against drinking it and pours it back into the fountain.
That was very dramatic.
Been a while since you've been here.
I have a lot of history here, and yes, it has been a while since I was last here.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't meant to sound. It sounded very rude. I didn't mean for it to sound as rude as it did. Sorry.
I'll take the note. Thank you, Idafer.
Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but I do understand it can be hard to return home after so long.
It must be terribly painful for you to empathize with me.
Oh, absolutely. And don't forget it for a second.
Damn.
The castle guards approach, looking at all of you a little suspiciously, but then they see Master Speck and they say, "Oh, my lord." And he turns to them and he says, "Is the king in a good mood? Or is he, And the guards seem nervous to answer the question. And Speck chuckles and he floats towards the main doors and he says, "These lovely people wish to meet with my father and negotiate."
Father.
Daddy.
Daddy issues.
Do see them in, won't you? I have to go and freshen up. And he leaves you and floats off through the main doors of the tree.
A prince.
Ooh, fancy.
Well, insofar as much as I'm a princess.
Okay, Karen. No, sorry. Interesting that you're a prince and you have left
He's gone.
this place.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Walking away.
Oh, that's right. He was the one that floated away. Okay, well then I'm talking to the group. I'm like, well, a prince. Huh. Interesting. What?
Well, he seems to have abandoned his duties insofar as much as I have abandoned mine.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I feel like you guys are actually more in common than you think, Karen.
Don't say that.
No, I'm gonna say it again. I think you guys are more in common than you think.
Gross. Well, shall we meet this king then?
Yeah, we probably should go meet his daddy.
Hopefully he's a bit better than my mother.
You approach the doors, and the elven guards who are at the door move their spears across each other to block your way. We are happy to escort you inside, but him, and they point at Idafer, he is not allowed inside. King Yashul decreed long ago that tieflings are barred from the castle. You are free to roam the village as long as you don't cause trouble.
Okay.
Okay, well, I suppose we meet King Yashul somewhere else within the village then.
Yeah.
Yeah, can he come out?
I am afraid this is not possible.
Okay, we'll just be waiting over by the fountain for...
You guys go in, it's fine. I'll just wait out here, but I will have words with Speck after this.
Yeah, I'm sick of all this racist stuff.
You're the leader of the away team
It's
now.
fine, Karen. You'll be fine. Just go in there, see what you can find out, and report back to me.
Right, well, it sounds like King Yashul isn't going to be more reasonable than my mother then, so...
The old...
Maybe there's a potential you feel a bit creepy crawly and you can wait outside and then feel creepy crawly.
Oh, ha 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 ha. No, I'll respect their wishes, but I am intrigued to see how this all plays out. Anyway, you guys go in. I'm going to find myself a snack or something. Just keep your wits about you.
Okay.
Fine.
The guards heard all this, and despite the fact they seem very nervous to disobey an order, they're relieved that you went with it. They don't seem to dislike Idafer, they just are doing what they've been told.
Yeah.
And the rest of you leave Ida alone, and you walk into the castle. It is enormous and grand, and it is a very fun and interesting combination of the natural spaces created in the inside of the tree, as though the tree voluntarily grew around spaces to allow rooms to form, and a lot of there's a little table that's the tree grew on purpose, so 4 legs and a little flat surface. And then there are also spaces that appear to be created from bricks and building materials, as though there's a combination of the elves' architecture and the tree itself sort of working with them to create this space.
Very cool.
Very like natural and it's very
Quite
grand.
druidic.
Yeah, very druidic.
Yeah.
Frankie, Karen, and Flynn, you guys go into the castle and you're escorted, through these very interesting rooms, through these like cool spaces that are a little bit uneven because of the way that the tree has grown around them. And you're escorted into a grand dining hall, which is not that different from the one that you would see in the Ymir City Castle. There's a big long table. There is in the corner, what appears to be a magical fire that is burning without sort of burning wood. You might recognize it as probably the result of a spell. There are grand porcelain plates laid out. There's like fruit and nuts and a lot of like gathered food here. No meat that you can see, but there's a lot of things to eat and things to drink. Although, like, it definitely goes along with the pattern that you've seen of the elves living with the land and not against it. Roll me a perception check.
Perception.
Frankie got a 22.
Nice, Frankie.
Karen got a 19.
So can I tell you, I got a 19, but it hit the corner of my paper, so it stopped, and I was like, that's not fair. So I rolled again, and I got that 1. So I was like, fuck, alright, roll it again, and then I got a 4.
Flynn's like digging into the fruit and nuts and stuff. He's like, oh, hell yeah.
Oh my god.
Love me some chestnuts. Which is very halfling behavior, if you ask me. Karen and Frankie, you are asked to sit and wait while the king communes with his patron, which he's currently doing, and he'll be there shortly to talk to you. And you look around the room and you can see that the paintings on the wall depict the recent history of the elves. Not long ago, when magic disappeared, the elves were in danger of dying out completely. And the paintings depict the great king protector Yashul and how he sought out the power of otherworldly entities to maintain his people. There is a painting of him striking a deal with a Hell Lord and sacrificing his own eternal elven soul so that he could safeguard the elves of Manafei. And then there's a picture of the king slaying his naysayers and using his newfound power to create the fountain that all elves now thank their immortality for.
Wow.
This is big.
This is a little bit insane.
Oh my gosh. Do you know what this means?
Yes.
This king has made a deal with a devil. And people who make deal with devils, they have tieflings in their descendants.
Idafer,
Hello.
what are you up to?
I am looking around to see if I can find a nice little cafe or something where I can get a coffee. Do elves drink coffee?
We're going to find out. Roll me a investigation check to see if you can find coffee.
All right.
They do it with oat milk.
That is a 23.
Hell yeah.
Oh, they do.
You don't wander too far. You find a spot that appears to be like a themed cafe, and it's surprising and kind of charming because it's a Ymir City themed cafe.
Aww.
It's got like, little cardboard cutouts or, like little leaves that are like cut to resemble landmarks.
Capitalism.
It's difficult to really depict capitalism, but it is there. It's like a little spot where like the guy who has created this spot, the elf that's created the spot, has clearly based all of the decorations off of like second or third hand descriptions of them. So they do have like some awareness of the like world outside of the forest, but clearly like not a lot of first hand.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they seem to have gathered from the outside world is, in fact, coffee. And you go up and the elf is very excited to talk to you. Wants you to judge all of his decorations, all of the, the leaves and stuff that he set up. And he gives you a coffee for free because they don't have like a finance system here. They just share.
Oh, yeah.
This is like when Americans go to Sweden and they go and buy a burger, and the people in Sweden are like, the burger experts are here. This is so exciting.
yeah, very, very very similar to that. And Idafer, you're drinking your coffee out of this like this cup-shaped leaf or flower, let's say.
Aww.
And it's quite sweet. It's quite interesting that their like palate is much more sweet than bitter.
Yeah.
Just from sort of this, and you munch on some berries and you're sort of watching and waiting around, and then you see a fairly unkempt elven woman. She's like filthy and she has birds nested here, and she's like rampaging around the courtyard of the castle.
Oh.
And like only like 20, 30 feet from you. She's like taking spears from the guards and like snapping them over her knee and like, you know, just tipping over, you know, big statues. And the guards are just letting her do it. They're just watching her.
Oh.
And she shrieks in their faces in Elven. And she suddenly like look over at you and she stops. And you're like, okay, what have I gotten myself into now? Because this manic woman is looking at me. And she cracks up laughing. She like suddenly like ignores the guards and cracks up laughing and like swoops over to you.
Okay.
And she walks right up to you and like looks you right in the eye and she's like, it's you.
Sorry. What? Hi, do I know you?
Why did you come here?
Business trip?
And she stares at you for the longest time and then she says, would you like to have tea with me?
Oh, well, I've got a coffee right here in my hand, so
She
do you
like
just
knocks
wanna...
it out of your hand and just grabs you by the wrist and just drags you along.
Oh, okay, thank you for the coffee, I say as I get dragged away.
And she walks up to she like drags you over to the fountain and she puts her hand in the fountain and her hand's like not clean. There's now a little bit of coffee on it and she like uses it she like with one hand in the fountain like casts a spell that seems to like affect the minds of the guards, something to make them limp for a second although they don't fall down, and she just leads you past these guards like into the castle.
The guards said I couldn't come in here. I don't know if we should be doing this.
It's okay, I say it's fine. What's your name?
Idafer?
Good, it's a good name for you.
Thanks.
What kind of tea do you like?
I don't really drink tea. I'm more of a coffee kind of guy.
Goody, I'm going to show you some of my favorites. She like drags you like through the main courtyard and like up some stairs. The thing is that you probably could physically overpower her, but she seems so determined that you're a little bit like I have no idea what's going on here and I'm breaking a lot of rules.
But you know what? Someone from within has allowed me to do this, so I'm just gonna go with it.
Frankie, Flynn, and Karen, you're being served extravagant food and drink. And again, like the palate here is very sweet. There's a lot of like berries and there's a lot of natural sugars and a lot of everything that you're eating. There's no meat here, but there are a lot of like, you know, vegan alternatives. It's very like Forest Child cuisine.
Forest Child, I've not heard that before, but I love it.
Karen feels very out of her depth here. As a dwarf whose like palate is completely opposite, you know,
Yeah.
meat, cheeses, rich pastries. She's like, oh, it's very, oh, it's the whole thing is treats. Oh,
Yeah, you bite into like this weird star-shaped blue fruit and it's like overflowing with juice and pulp and it's so perfectly ripe and it's gorgeous.
Fruit.
And then there is the unmistakable smell of sulfur and brimstone.
Oh.
And from a door at the top of the room, from behind the throne, an elf appears. He's dressed very regally and his eyes are lightly smoking. Just little trails of smoke coming off from his eyes. I've put notes here. He's very daddy and very regal looking.
Oh,
It's very
My
daddy.
daddy.
I put that in there for Nate, yeah.
Zaddy.
He observes you for a moment, and all of the guards stand to attention as he's in this room. And he walks down the stairs, dragging a little, like, cloak, you know, like kingly cloak behind him. And he sits across from you at this big, long table, and he's served fountain water by one of the guards. He looks at you, and he says quite politely, "Visitors are really allowed in Manafei, and if not for my son suddenly reappearing, you would almost certainly be dead. What is it that you have risked your lives to come and speak to me about?"
the lives of our co-workers, of course.
Go on.
We are here to negotiate because there was recently an incident where 3 of our Goliath co-workers were burnt to death by what I can only describe as hellfire.
That's right.
A controlled magic, some would say illegal magic.
He smiles to you and he says, "In this forest, there is one person who decides what is legal, and that is me. The people whom you are speaking of violated a border, and they were given plenty of warning. We shared our forest with the outsiders, and the outsiders destroyed their part. They will not destroy our home. Those trees are not theirs to take. They've done what they can with theirs, and they have simply wasted it.
While I can appreciate wanting to defend your own home, do you think it's possible that the border was not accurately described to the people who died? Because from all accounts, they have absolutely no idea what's going on, or even that you reside within this forest.
We keep our presence a secret for a very good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, if our presence was known, people would come here to take our magic, and there is simply not enough to go around.
Right.
I admit there is no signs on the border, but do you know what's very, very effective in keeping people out of your home?
Killing them.
Immediate death.
Immediate death. That is correct. From someone who's not in this room. Sorry,
Yeah.
please continue.
Killing them, as far as I can tell. You wouldn't...
I would argue that they killed themselves. They had the opportunity to receive a small backlash from crossing our borders, and they chose to push through. They suffered the consequences for doing so.
I would hardly call those consequences if they had no idea that that was going to happen.
Hmm.
You know, your warning is only in Elvish, right? It's something that not many people speak outside of, from what I can tell, this community.
He kind of looks at you like shrewdly, and then he like leans over and speaks to one of his guards and looks back at you and says, I admit I had not considered that. The last time I travelled to the outside world, Elvish was well spoken. This is perhaps an oversight on my part. I will update the warning to what language would be most well understood by outsiders.
Common is well spoken these days. The human language.
Very well. I will update the language so that it is also spoken in common and people can better understand that they are not welcome here.
Well, small mercies, I suppose. Now, this is not a visit that we are taking to seek revenge or to intrude upon your home.
Glad to hear it.
This was merely a visit to establish understanding. And to my understanding, Manafei Forest used to be magical throughout.
It did.
And now it's gone.
There are parts that are still magical. The parts that are within a certain radius of the fountain still benefit from magic where possible.
Mm.
This is not always possible, but this is as much as we are able to provide. I will not hear a word of allowing the forest to be cut down any more than it has. But I am aware that I'm not the king of you or your work. So, how about I offer you a small compromise?
Shoot.
Hmm.
Sorry, it's been a while since I've been in court. I'm more used to talking to merchants these days.
Please enjoy yourselves for a moment. He stands and he goes over to talk to one of his guards, and the guard leaves the room and, a few minutes later comes back with a tray on it that contains 6 sprouts, 6, small plants, each in their own, small pot. These are fountain-infused saplings that will grow quickly and spawn other plants. You and your people may start your portion of the forest again, if only you wait.
Well, I mean, honestly, this has been a far more reasonable court meeting than anything I've ever experienced in the Hive, so she kind of turns to Frankie and Flinvar and shrugs and goes, It's better than any bargain the dwarves would have made, that's for sure.
We're very thankful is what Karen's saying. Flynn wants to ask politely how long they've been there as a civilization.
Longer than my lifetime, that is certainly true. Although the settlement became what it was around 160 years ago, when the weave was disrupted and the elves needed shelter. That is truly when this place became what it is today.
Can you describe what you mean when the weave was disruptive? Why can't I say that word? Can you elaborate?
So Flynn, you already know the answer to this question. Are you just trying to see what he knows about it?
Yeah.
I'm afraid that I have not left the forest in some time. My duties to my people are here and always have been. My understanding is that there was some disruption to the weave, and as became the case, magic became much less accessible, and he looks around at the paintings in the room that you've looked at, and he says, I made other arrangements to protect my people and my family.
I was going to say, of people talking, and Frankie's been thinking, and Frankie gets this sudden, injection of, courage. And he stands up, and he slams his hands on the table, and he's like, I feel somewhat responsible for what's happened in the forest, and I now know I have the power and the ability and the intellect, smirk, to make changes. And I think with your help with the growing these beautiful seedlings, we could look at more sustainable ways in the future, so that maybe perhaps someday we could foster a better working relationship between your people and us.
He nods to you at your statement, and he smiles. That is a very promising future that we have. I hope that you choose to keep your word. And a guard comes up and speaks to him, whispers in his ear, and he dabs his mouth with a little leaf, and he says, visitors, you may now leave my kingdom and my forest. Please pass along word that the curse that befalls trespassers will not be lifted. Any who attempts to further damage Manafei will. And then a voice from the door says, don't mind me. Please continue with your threats. And Master Speck has reappeared and floats over to the table and sits down to eat. And King Yashul visibly bristles at this. Why have you returned? What happened to the human woman you were so excited to worship? And Master Speck picks up a big apple and chews on it and bites into it, and he says, she's dead, father. She killed all those gods you were so very fond of, and she left me her mess to clean up. How is the hellspawn you pledge our blood to? In Elvish, so only Frankie and Karen can understand this, he says, my blood, I did this for you and for our people, and unlike you, I think of others before I act. And Master Speck responds in common. You are sure that so that you can understand, you can benefit from this. He says, well, you sure have me pegged. What a selfish little lad I am.
Just a little lad.
He called himself a little lad.
King Yashul says, have you finally decided that my table is good enough for you after all? And Master Speck smiles at you, Karen, in particular, and he says to his father, the quality of the furniture was never the bastard. And the king stands and says, boy, you will show me due respect inside this castle and out of it. And Master Speck says, I'm showing you the respect that you have earned. The youngest members of the family would agree with me. And the king says, there are no youngest. Our bloodline will end with you and Gwynfair. And Speck chews thoughtfully on a grape and smirks maliciously at his father and says, will it? Idafer.
Hello.
The woman has brought you to a room that is clearly her bedroom inside this castle. And she, on the way there, was just tipping over expensive vases, tearing bits off of paintings, just destroying everything that she can get her hands on. And she's brought you into this room as manically as she has been so far. And she's rushing around the room making tea. She's very animated and she's very manic coded, and she's ranting and she says, my father Yashul, he's a bastard. But I can't leave. He sold our blood for powerful magic, and then my children, all my children, his ears, he refused to accept. It was my fault, always my fault. Even though they were beautiful, to him they were wrong, all unacceptable. And she stops and she seems to remember that she has a guest. She calms herself down and she says, please excuse the mess. I don't often have visitors anymore, let alone, what kind of tea would you like? And she points to all these different little pots that have, crayon drawings, children's drawings of strawberries and grapes and dragon fruit and all these different kinds of flavors on them.
Dealer's choice.
She grabs, let's say, the purple apple And she makes the tea, just cooing to herself, before turning and placing it atop a pile of books that are directly in front of you. And she says, please, 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 tell me about yourself. Did you grow up somewhere nice?
Yeah, I grew up over in Ymir City.
That's good. There's lots of people there. I suppose he must have found it hard hiding you all by himself. What happened to your horn?
Sorry, wait, what are you talking about?
Well, your uncle, of course. He made sure you kept your name somehow.
I don't have an uncle, as far as I'm aware.
You're Idafer, right? Idafer?
Yes.
Yes, it's an elven name. It means our last hope, because to me, you really were.
Sorry, what?
The woman, pours the tea, and she sits down, and she says, my brother took my last child away, instead of allowing my father to cull it. They left the forest, and they never came back. Until now, and you're so healthy, you're so handsome.
Who are you?
She pulls the book from that's underneath your tea, and it spills everywhere. And she flips frantically through the pages of these regal-looking elves. And she said, I thought that he would have kept an eye on you. Maybe he did. And she stops on a page, and she holds it up. One page shows what must be a younger version of this woman that you're talking to. Her name is Gwynfair. She's beautiful and perfect. There's no bags under her eyes. Her hair has been brushed. And compared to this now sallowed skin, she's so clean and tidy in this portrait of the book. And the name underneath of that picture says Gwynfair Shu. And on the other page is a picture of Master Speck as a young man. But it's the name banner underneath that really catches your attention. Poppy, I'm about to send you a private message that contains the name that you read. And I want you to react to it, but please do not read it out loud.
Ooh. Okay. Oh! Yeah, I know them. So,
Do you know him?
yeah. We kind of hang out sometimes. Is he my uncle?
He certainly is. The elven woman kneels down and holds your hand and looks at you and says, I never thought I would see you again. You're so handsome.
He blushes because he loves a compliment, regardless of who it's from.
He does.
And he's like, nice to meet you.
It's very nice to meet you too. Frankie, Karen, and Flynn, back to the dining hall. You are all, finishing up. Basically, the meeting has gone from a respectful meeting between outsiders and the king to a dad and his son having a very public domestic, as Master Speck is just being really flippant and rude, and Yashul is stooping to that level. And so you guys are we should go. This is a bit much. And you're getting ready, you're gathering the saplings and you're packing up. And then in through the banquet doors, the banquet doors slam open. And the person who slammed them open is Idafer.
So I slam open the doors and I point directly at Master Speck and I'm like, you.
Idafer, have you had a good time inside the castle?
Oh, I've had a great time. Actually, I've learned quite a bit.
A lot of guards are pointing their spears at you.
I'll put them down. You couldn't do anything to me anyway.
Yashul, the King Yashul, is looking at you with wide eyes, and he's starting to back away.
And I point at him too. I'm like, and you, not letting me in the castle for some ridiculous reason. Because I think so Idafer's still a little bit confused, but he's piecing stuff together.
He's clearly afraid of you.
Yeah, you should be. And I point back to Master Speck. I'm like, why did you have to lie to me all that time? Was there a reason? Or do you just like to mess with people?
Karen's smiling. She's like, oh, this is great. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Master Speck is holding a glass of a goblet of wine, and he's looking at you strangely he doesn't quite know what you mean. Lying to you, I've always done my best to treat you with respect. What are you talking about?
Interesting. I had a chat with Gwynfair. And I kind of wait to see if that like opens him up a bit.
He looks at you with wide eyes and he says, and did you, what did she tell you?
Oh, I think you know what she told me. That you're enmity.
Master Speck, the goblet that he's making like hover in the air, he like freezes for a minute and then he looks at like his father and he looks at the rest of the party in the room and he like slowly exhales, and as he does so, the illusion of Master Speck vanishes. And where there once was a hand with a palm out levitating a goblet, instead is just an arm that is much too long and much too stretched that is actually holding the goblet. And his hovering in the air is actually just his legs are too long and too stretched, and he goes from being beautiful and perfect and the epitome of elven beauty to this worn out, gaunt, stretched out looking guy that is so tired. And he looks at you, Idafer, and he says, I'm only trying to fix this. You'll understand one day. And Yashul is horrified. He looks at his son and he says, what happened to you? This is because this is what the Electrum did to you, isn't it? I told you this would happen. And Amity like refuses to look you in the eye, Idafer, as he looks around this group, and he's gone from holding all the power in the room to suddenly being the like smallest person that everyone's looking at with disgust and with horror. And then a bunch of guards rush into the room. Dozens of guards. And they point spears at Karen, and they point spears at Frankie, and they point crossbows at all of you, and they point weapons at Flynn, and they start backing you towards the back of the room. And one of them says, there's a tree felling machine approaching the forest line. They mean to breach the border. And Yashul looks at you all shrewdly and he says,
Uh-oh.
I thought we had an understanding, but perhaps this was just a distraction.
Okay, so obviously we thought we had an understanding too.
All of you. Shut up. All of you. We're going to the forest line now. And he points at Amnesty and he says, especially you. You are not staying here without my eye. And Amnesty also has spears pointed at him. And he stands up and he looks at the four of you like everything's just gotten a little bit fucked up and he wasn't expecting it. And Yashul looks at the four of you and says, if you have meant to come here and fool me, this will be your last day. Oh, hello. Seems the cat is out of the bag. Amnesty here, heir to the title of High King Bastard of wherever. I'm supposed to tell you some grand advice to live your life by. But I don't think listening to me is a good idea. I guess all I have is, do clean up after yourself. Won't you? The kids don't deserve to live with our mistakes. Ta-ta.